Thanks again for staying with Africa News Network First Fast Live, and good evening if you've just joined us. My name is Cindy Mabi. The Department of Home Affairs set the record straight on the naturalization of the Gupta family as citizens of the country, but the opposition is unrelenting in pushing the negative narrative against the family. Home Affairs Director General Mkhoseli Apleni flagged the letter the opposition relied on to question the Gupta family's status. Apleni says the letter supposedly written by the department's Director General to decline the family's request was tampered with and was hence inaccurate. Apleni also pointed out that the dates on Hlongwane's letter did not reflect the correct sequence of events, and this sought to make then Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba's decision seem irregular. This raises questions about who tampered with the letter and to whose political advantage the misrepresentation of facts is.
I saw that letter which was circulating. That letter has been, what is the right word now? No, it's been tampered with. Yes, that letter said, however, you and your family will qualify to reapply on 23rd December 2017. That letter says 2015. It's wrong. It is 2017, and I will explain why it was 2017 and not 2015. So that's the first thing which is wrong in that letter, but we're not discussing it now, but I'm just highlighting it. This letter is not from me. It was circulated in the media. This letter, it says, however, you and your family will qualify to reapply on the 23rd December 2015, but our letter says 2017. This thing is what has been circulating in the media, and we're saying this thing is not what. That letter which is quoted in that submission was not even drafted by the minister. It's drafted by the officials. And now they explain now to them again about that. They have done that. Minister, in powers vested on her, decided to waive this. The decision maker applied his or her mind. In this case, the minister or the people in the group of the list, we applied our mind. Declaration of renouncement of Indian citizenship, yourself and the family. You are hereby informed that your application for South African citizenship has been conditionally approved. It's not saying has been approved.
Members of Parliament allege the Home Affairs letter shows that the Gupta application was irregularly processed, but Home Affairs says the letter doing the rounds in the social media was forged and is hence inaccurate. MPs also allege Minister Gigaba unilaterally fast-tracked the Gupta family's application for naturalization, but the department says the minister acted on the advice given by the department's officials. MPs allege that Home Affairs did not verify Oak Bay's financial figures to support the application. However, the department says the figures were verified with the South African Revenue Services and the Department of Trade and Industry. Now, despite Apleni's presentation of the facts, the opposition MPs continue to peddle the false narrative for narrow political gains.
People must be whistleblowers, but they must not mislead. They must not mislead the country. And really, if ever we want inquiry, we want inquiry in that information that was falsified. It cannot be. It is totally irresponsible because people want to gain some political gains here.
It's very bad now, Chairperson, because our portfolio committee meeting is now used as a campaigning platform by our opposition members.
You sometimes create a problem to me when you ask a question that has been clarified clearly, and then we put the question as if nothing has been said.
I'm not sure if I've attacked anyone because I've got a letter here which is a proof that the same question was asked several times before.
And joining us in studio, Mr. Zamo Madlala from the Black Empowerment Foundation. We have Walter Lukhuleni from the PAC, is the Secretary for Publicity. Lindsay Marstorp is the National Spokesperson for Black First and Land First. Good evening to you. And Mr. Marstorp, let's start with you in terms of what transpired in the Portfolio Committee in Parliament today, with the Home Affairs Department essentially saying that the documents being circulated have been falsified. What's your reaction to this?
I mean, it's a real shame that politicians like Julius Malema, the EFF in general, Democratic Alliance can stoop this low to falsify documentation in a process to pronounce the Guptas as non-citizens of South Africa. But I mean, what's worse than this is that how can white people like Steenhuisen standing up and say that the Guptas' citizenship must be called into question? Colonialist land thieves who come into this country and continue to pillage and plunder and want to reject radical economic transformation now want to tell us who must be citizens of this country, of this land space. I think that is very arrogant of the Racist Democratic Alliance, but also it's very anti-black of the economic freedom fighters to continue this perpetuation that the Guptas are not citizens of this country in the interest of a white minority who continues to maintain us as land thieves. It's the same notions. What they're doing now is the same way they've been treating African people from across the different borders continually in this country in terms of xenophobic attacks. And now they're leveraging this attack on people who have come here into this country at the beginning of the 90s and decided to call this place their home, and who are part of the black population, as Biko would term us. And then these people continue, and then the Guptas continue to work within this country to enable us to bring about this radical economic transformation. It must be understood as well that the onset or the onslaught onto the Guptas comes at a time because the Guptas have shown their ability to go against hegemonic white power in the coal sector and in different other sectors, including the media space. And white people like Rupert and Renwick are not happy, and they've told their bulldogs like Julius Malema to come after the Guptas. They've told people like Steenhuisen from the DA, Zillan Zilla, who says colonialism is okay, to come after the Guptas. But these parties like the EFF and the DA continue to collude and work against the black majority. What we got to understand is that black people own this land. We cannot be thrown out of this land, and we will decide who lives in the side. And the landless, dispossessed, oppressed, which includes the African, Indian, and colored, will continue to determine how this economy must function, and we will determine who must be here. And one thing is for sure, if colonial settlers will continue to tell us how to run this country, then they must go. They must live on the same ships that brought them here.
I also have the view that there needs to be a broader extension if we are to scrutinize the nationalization of certain individuals, that we can even go beyond just the one family.
Look, the beginning of the question of rights to this land or rights to living in this land is the issue of land itself. And historically, we know that white people came into this country as colonial settlers and decided to steal, pillage, and rape and plunder. They've done evil towards us. The real question is, do white people have the right to live in this land? That's the question. The question is shouldn't be about the Guptas. The Guptas have the right to live in this land. They must live in this land. They are citizens of this land. They've done good work in this land. They've given us alternative media spaces. They've given us a section of the coal sector to counter hegemonic power there so that we don't have this load shedding and this 400% increases on electricity prices. So they've done good work in the country. The real question is, do white people have the right to live in it? Does the colonial settler deserve to live in this land while they continue to rape, pillage, and plunder our economic resources?
Lindsay, just stay on the line. I beg your pardon. Sorry. Walter Lukhuleni is at the PAC as the Secretary for Publicity. Good evening to you, Walter, and thanks so much for joining us. Is this a classic case of what's good for the goose is not good for the gander, in that, the Freedom Charter says that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, and yet we see a lot of resistance to, or more scrutiny around the Gupta family?
Good evening, Cindy, and to your viewers. Cindy, I think this is a classic case of people trying to undermine the systems of the country. Our take as the PAC is simple. If there's a family or an individual in the country that is here on dubious means, a proper investigation must take place. Once that is clarified, then the person would either be legitimately here or would have to be deported. That's the first thing. The second thing that needs to be looked at is whether the rules that govern naturalization are correctly applied. In other words, we need to look at the officials. Do they apply the rules equally to everyone? As a PAC, we don't believe there are whites, blacks, and coloreds. We believe everyone is an African. But we need to look at people coming from outside the borders of Tanzania, whether they're here in the country legitimately, whether they subscribe to the rules that exist, and secondly, whether the rules that are existing are actually adequate.
All right. Walter, just sorry, just stay on the line, Mr. Madlala. Black Empowerment Foundation, what is your position on all of this? Well, what's going on in the public domain?
All right. Good evening, Cindy,
Good
and
evening.
the viewers. Well, our position is quite simply the following. The Director General today went through the whole process that they went through from how many ever individuals. He went through it in detail. So the actual narrative out there is that it appears that one should be saying that the minister just went blasé out of the blue and just decided to write some naturalization letter without any process being followed. There was a process followed, and I believe that the only oversight with it was that he did not table it with Parliament, which can still be rectified. At the end of the day, the question really, from our side, becomes on whose side have the Guptas really been? They've been a thorn in somebody's side, obviously, and they need to be attacked. Because I would also like to believe that each individual would have applied. It wouldn't have been a general amnesty, so there would have been individuals. So when you go into the details, obviously now there are individuals and you need to respect also their privacy and that. Only probably after the Home Affairs Minister rectifies the oversight and tables it with Parliament will we then really get to the bottom of what really is this all about.
Yeah, I mean, MPs, Mr. Masdorf, were very unrelenting in that, one even citing there's various other emails or what have you that could support the case that the naturalization process was indeed irregular. But the Home Affairs Department also resolute saying that, processes were done and the only other thing was not mentioning it or tabling it to Parliament. Do you think we'll get to the bottom of this, or is there more supposed leaks and scandals that we can anticipate?
I mean, this is a non-case if we follow the argument from the ministry correctly. The oversight must also be understood that it was what was not done was that the information was not given to Parliament, but Parliament had no say about the naturalization of the Guptas. It was really a passing on of information, and the ministry went on to continue to say that this is not the first time that unfortunately it was an administrative error in terms of tabling it to that. It was not, and so it must be understood in that context. It was also unpacked that Minister Gikaba also was not individually responsible for the case, that it was the ministry itself that made the determination together. And this is important to understand because this is a direct onslaught on Minister Gikaba to taint him continually, knowing that control of the treasury and him being in control or being seen as someone that is just and fair within the treasury then means that white monopoly capital cannot continue to rule that space, and they want him out there. At the same time, it's attack on the Guptas to get them out of this country. So this is a non-case. There's no process that still needs to be followed. It's purely going through the process now to continue to reveal that white monopoly capital has its hand in politicians like Julius Malema, EFF, Democratic Alliance, of course the Freedom Front Plus and so forth. And they have their hand with these politicians with the sole interest to use them to attack people like Minister Gikaba, to attack families like the Guptas, for the sole interest of stopping radical economic transformation, of stopping us from asking the question, must black people pay for the land that was stolen from us? And asking the real question, do white colonial settlers have a place in the post-land revolution, land liberation society, or must they then apply themselves to be naturalized within the society? Because are they really citizens? That's the real question, and that can only be determined in a post-land revolution. So we don't take back the land, and it's a society that is predetermined for us.
All right, Mr. Masdorf, thanks indeed. Walter Lukuleni with the PAC. The whole argument, and it depends who you're sitting with, including family members, associates and acquaintances. We all read the papers. We're not oblivious of what's going on in the country. What Lindsay is essentially saying that this is, in the bigger scheme of things, the struggle or the fight to retain the status quo for those who are still benefiting from the wealth and the economy of this country, that Malusi Gigaba, as he said in his own word, that there is a paid campaign against them to tarnish his reputation.
Cindy, that might be possible. I don't speak on behalf of the minister, but also I don't speak on behalf of the Guptas or any other family.
No am I.
Excuse me?
Nor am I speaking on behalf of the Guptas. We just, it is a topical issue that we need to ventilate, so we have the platform to do so.
Yes, but what I would want to say is that the Parliament Oversight Committee's duty is to check if the rules were followed, and if the rules were followed, to then confirm that everything was done on board, above board. So the question that arises here is it the only family that has a cloud hanging over them, or is it the proper strategy that's involving other issues? So for us, the question here is the Oversight Committee must then come up and say, these are the number of people that have been naturalized in South Africa over the period from 94 up to now, and these are the processes that have been followed. Therefore, this particular process was flawed. Whether or not the Guptas are doing the right thing in this country, that's an issue that has nothing to do with the Home Affairs. Because my understanding is that you come from some other country, you come to this country, you then apply, and there are certain rules that regulations that apply, and you must comply with that. If you comply and the Home Affairs says yes, then it's fine. Our position is that.
But yeah, sorry, Walter, but Mr. Mazala, I mean, it would take a lot for Mr. Apleni to now implicate, or rather say that this particular letter that the opposition had been relying on to implicate some, the minister on some wrongdoing has actually been forged. That speaks volumes, because he essentially is divorcing himself from the existence of this letter. It doesn't originate from them, and saying that by omission they didn't notify Parliament, and perhaps that is their biggest sin. And yet what we hear being peddled more is the fact, the insinuation that the entire lot at Home Affairs is corrupt, and they themselves had been party to this alleged irregularity.
I suppose it all fits within the narrative of the state has been captured by the Gupta family, which till this day there's a very big part of me that is rather skeptical, because I still see things being pretty much the same wherever I go around the country. So if it is that they have captured the country and the state so much, I wonder why the status quo remains, and why there's still objection to things like the mining charter, because obviously they ought to be getting everything from the sounds of everything that's being put out there. But I mean, to get back to what this whole thing is about, it's about there was apparently no process followed. This was done outside the ramifications of the law. Now the DG has sat in Parliament and given us the process that was followed. Now, some may agree or disagree with how Minister Gigaba arrived at his decision, but the bigger question becomes, now that he's in this new portfolio, why is it now? Because I believe that this matter was signed into law some time ago. Why now, when he's the sitting finance minister, must this crop up? Is this maybe for other nefarious ends? Well, who knows?
Mr. Mastrop, I don't know if you're still with us. Are we getting into a space where the discretion of ministers is now going to be questioned by the opposition? In other words, if it's not validated by the opposition, then you're likely to have this backlash.
Look, unfortunately or fortunately, what we need to realize is that we are in a war, and we've been in this war for quite some time now. And people like the EFF, the Democratic Alliance, and all those sitting in the Rupert and Renwick camp will come out all guns blazing and use any and every single means, including discrediting your family and destroying your public image, in the interest of preserving their wealth. This is the tactics that are going to be, and it's going to be elevated. It's been said numerous times when Minister Dikaba came into office, he needs to have a thick skin. He needs to understand this is going to be his life. He's going to come under attack, and he must be resolute and continue with a radical economic transformation program. And the Guptas have to go through this for some time now. And their families have been attacked. I mean, we know that Minister Brian Molefe, his children were attacked at school. All these ministers and persons who speak or want radical economic transformation, who speak with the president in one voice, who says land expropriation without compensation. All of these people are coming under attack right now. Why is it happening? That's because the running dogs of imperialism like Julius Malema, Stian Huysens, Helen Zille, all these people are coming full force at those who want the return of the land for black liberation. It's going to continue. What we need now is a black bloc. All of us, whether it's the PAC or the Black Management Forum, anyone who speaks for black people, who says they speak for black, must come out strong and defend black people principally against white people. If you're not doing that, unfortunately, you yourself are a running dog of imperialism or with people like Rupert and Revik. You must come out strong and defend the president when he says land expropriation without compensation. Defend Dikaba when he speaks for radical economic transformation. Give him power to do that. Defend the Guptas against white people, because white people are colonial settlers who stole the land. Don't side with Stian Huysens. Don't side with those side like Malema with PA and fight against black people. That could be right.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Lindsay Mastorp, the spokesperson for Black First Land First. Thanks so much for your time. Just in assessing things, you obviously have to discern which is truth and fiction. We've seen a lot of talk, and we get a lot of flack, of course, because of the nature of our shareholders or structure, that the South Africans now have to discern and decide for themselves what is really going on. And from your foundation, Black Empowerment Foundation, can you give us a desktop executive look?
I wish I had the hourglass to say I'd know in 2 years' time what is going on. But to me, it appears that the idea of always pushing a particular narrative and repeating it, I mean, the saying is a falsehood repeated long enough and often enough becomes the reality. Now, the reality within this whole thing is that I believe, I mean, I have my own theories. I don't think I would take them public. I think they carried out something that one who's in the corporate sector and has viewed how these things are done, they carried out something that was almost undoable, that was unforeseen, not seen before. And obviously those people are now retaliating, and this is part of the retaliation. The process is there. I don't think the minister could have carried it out in one day. There are those who are going to agree with him and those who are going to disagree with him. Now the question is, where to from here?
All right, we're going to leave it there. Zabo Madala is from the Black Empowerment Foundation. Walter Lukuleni, PAC Secretary for Publicity, and Lindsay Mastorp, National Spokesperson for Black First, the Land First. Time for a quick break, and we'll see you on the other side of this.